Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the vlog. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day. We are back with the Cadillac Escalade and the beautiful view of the horizon coastline of the Atlantic Ocean. The water is actually very calm today, so it's a good day to get a video filmed in here. So I thought I'd take some time to talk about the 5 things that I hate about the Cadillac Escalade. I've now owned this vehicle for about 7 months. I've put about 6,500 miles on this vehicle, and I think it's a good time to talk about both the pros and the cons. So I've already talked about the 5 things that I like. I thought now is a good time to talk about the 5 things that I hate about the Cadillac Escalade. And by no means is this perfect, so I understand that people that are looking at this vehicle are cross-shopping the Grand Wagoneer or the Lincoln Navigator with the Cadillac Escalade. And so in today's video, before I run out of sunlight, you guys can see that the sun is starting to set. I got about 20 minutes to talk about the things that I don't like about this vehicle, and some of these are deal breakers. And as a channel that tries to share the ownership experience of all the cars that I've owned on the channels, all the cars that I will own on the channel, I think it's important to talk about the negatives, because far too often YouTubers are given these vehicles to do reviews with, and they only talk about the positives and not the negatives. And that's a good place for me to slide in and talk about what I don't like about this vehicle. And so if you are stopping by for the first time and you enjoyed this video, definitely go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you have not already, definitely go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and definitely go ahead and check out some of the other videos on the channel that help round out the ownership experience of a Cadillac Escalade. So the number one thing that I don't like about the Cadillac Escalade, let's go take a look. So taking a look at the number one thing that I don't like about the Cadillac Escalade is the drivetrain. This is a 6.2 liter VVT producing about 420 horsepower, and this is the absolute most cutting edge forward thinking motor of 2007. And the reason why I say it that way is that they've had the same power plant in the Cadillac Escalade since 2007. They've made enhancements to it. They've made it a little bit more fuel efficient. They've adjusted the timing, and it has a 10-speed transmission. But at the end of the day, this is the same Chevy small block that has been inside the Escalade for almost a decade and a half now. We're pushing on 15 years, and this engine and powertrain was cutting edge. No questions asked, was ahead of its time in 2007, but the market has since caught up to this platform and long exceeded it. And so this is a slow engine. I think this car struggles with passing power. The mid-range and top end struggle. And so what I mean by that is this car is underpowered for how heavy the Cadillac Escalade is, particularly the ESV. The Cadillac Escalade does offer a supercharged variant of this engine, the 6.2 liter supercharged LT4 V8. That is a 650-ish horsepower V8 that is much quicker, but at the end of the day, the base motor in this, compared to the base motor in the Grand Wagoneer and the base motor in the Lincoln Navigator, this is dead last in the pack. And so let me break that down a little bit. The Lincoln Navigator offers a 440 horsepower, 3.5 liter twin turbo V6, which offers all the benefits of a V6 in terms of fuel economy and the turbocharged aspect of it having better pulling power and passing power once the turbos have spooled up. You're talking about 5% more power and about 3 to 4 miles per gallon better in terms of MPG that I've experienced getting about 15 MPG on this V8 Cadillac Escalade as opposed to the 19 to 21-ish that I was pulling down in the Lincoln Navigator that I had. So you can see a 20% decline in MPG and a 5% reduction in power. This doesn't offer you the performance or the fuel efficiency of a Lincoln Navigator. And then I think the Grand Wagoneer now offering a 510 horsepower V6 Hurricane engine that on paper has similar fuel economy to the Cadillac Escalade, but in terms of performance, you're talking about almost 20% more horsepower than the Cadillac Escalade in the Grand Wagoneer. And so at the end of the day, this is a V8. I love my V8s, but this doesn't offer the sound of a V8. This doesn't offer the engaging feeling of a V8. It's a little slow. It's a little sluggish to get to its peak point in the power band. But it has all the downsides of a V8 versus a V6 in terms of fuel economy. And I think that's a deal breaker for the Cadillac Escalade for some people, depending on what your needs are. So without a doubt, the number one thing that I hate is the powertrain on the Cadillac Escalade. And while we're out here, let's talk about the number two thing that I hate about the Cadillac Escalade. I absolutely, without a doubt, hate the fact that General Motors bilks everybody $1,500 for connected services on the Cadillac Escalade window sticker for something that is standard on the Grand Wagoneer for a year and is standard on the Lincoln Navigator for your entire duration of ownership. So this is $42 a month, $1,500 upfront for only 3 years of connected services. which is a lot of money to tag on to the car. I understand people are going to be like, well, it's six figures, you can afford it. But comparing it to its competition, Cadillac is really cutting a corner, and I complained about this on the Corvettes that I had, and now that they're making it standard equipment, they're pulling it out of the base price to say, oh, look, our vehicle is base price less than the competition, but then they force feed you a bunch of things after the fact you can't take off, that particularly the manufacturer's competitors offer for free out of the gates to begin with. So not a huge fan of that cost-cutting measure by General Motors. And number 3 on my list of things that I hate about the Cadillac Escalade is the buying experience. I'm someone that believes that buying a vehicle should be a unique experience. It should be something that you cherish and can celebrate, because a lot of hard work goes into getting to owning cool, fun vehicles. And General Motors has truly lost in its entirety across its platform that experience for the end consumer. Buying a General Motors vehicle is truly one of the most miserable experiences ever. And the Cadillac Escalade is no different. And I have to say that some of this experience is changing as the market is turning and dealers are losing their stronghold to try to build customers into overspending for things. My experience for buying this vehicle was pretty awful. I called about 15 dealerships, got kicked around by most of them. Many of them didn't take me seriously. Many of them didn't think the MSRP was reasonable. I was fortunate enough to find a dealership that was willing to sell this vehicle for MSRP after really fighting with the dealership to get to that point. And because of General Motors' controlled allocation system, as somebody that goes really deep into how this stuff's covered on the Corvette side, I know General Motors' allocation system is an anti-consumer pro-dealership model, unlike some of its competitors that make it really hard for a good dealership to just say, yeah, I'll order 10 of you guys an Escalade for MSRP, because they may not get 10 cars even though they're willing to do right by 10 customers, whereas a dealership that's bilking customers for thousands and thousands, $20,000 over MSRP, is able to fill their lot with cars, which just makes it really hard for the consumer to get this vehicle. So I did not enjoy buying this vehicle at all, and I hated the experience of it, which almost made me not buy this vehicle in the first place. Number 4 on my list of things that I hate about the Cadillac Escalade is some of the corner cutting and interior quality from General Motors. Disregard the screen protector situation on the screen. This is just an inside joke with a couple friends, but overall the interior quality of the Cadillac Escalade is really, really good up front. And I talked about the screens and I talked about Super Cruise in terms of driver-centric features, but when you get to the second row, people are buying this vehicle mainly for the second and third row. And for some reason, General Motors continues to make this an afterthought for this vehicle. You do get heated seats in the second row, but you don't get cooled seats. And to be honest, I have cooled seats in the second row of the Ram TRX, and Hyundai offers cooled seats in the second row for the Palisade. It's a Palisade, and Cadillac doesn't offer that in the second row for the Escalade. Lincoln Navigator also offers massaging seats in the second row now, something else that General Motors fails to offer the second row customers. And I have weird issues, like this is really rattly, so if I drive around with this seat up, I get a little rattling noise from like the armrest. I actually had that issue on a prior Escalade as well. Even talking about the door panel, you have hard plastic materials. One of the other things that bothers me a lot is you have ambient lighting in the Cadillac Escalade, but it's only for the front row. When you get into the second row, the lights aren't there. There's no ambient lighting in the second row. You have some lights, which is yet another afterthought by General Motors, that they didn't really put any thought into the second row of the Cadillac Escalade having the fit, finish, and material, and particularly the technology and some of the creature comforts that manufacturers and competitors are offering that the Escalade does not have. One of the other things that's hard to capture in video, but the headrests kind of adjust up and down, but not left to right, and for some reason one of them's mounted a little bit off axis, and it can't be adjusted left to right. So that's another thing where it's just General Motors quality. Again, I apologize for that screen protector from the factory. It got ripped off and I kind of stuck it on as a joke. But even comparing the Lincoln Navigator, the third row has adjustability, so you can recline the third row in both the Grand Wagoneer and the Lincoln Navigator, and you don't have that option in the Cadillac Escalade. You have 3 seats back here, but you only get 2 cup holders, one over there and one over here, and so you kind of just, everything back here seems like a little bit rushed, a little bit unrefined compared to the competition. So having paid the full price of, say, a Lincoln Navigator Black Label, there's a lot of things that this car just doesn't offer, and General Motors historically has never put a lot of thought in the second row. They've never been very innovative or kind of at the forefront of second and third row technology integrations, and they continue to be behind the 8-ball with the Cadillac Escalade. So if you're buying this vehicle for second and third row passengers, be mindful that the competitor offers more that the Cadillac Escalade does not. And number 5 on my list of things that I don't like about the Cadillac Escalade is I think there's an engineering flaw with the headlights. These are auto beam adjust headlights. So what happens is when you turn the vehicle on, the lights actually go from like the bottom and adjust themselves to where they need to be height-wise. And if you're familiar with adjusting headlights, like literally like an inch here can account to like, 10, 20, 15 feet of cutoff line where the headlights cut off. And what I've noticed with the Escalade is I get flashed a lot by other people. They're thinking my high beams are on and they're not. And what I think is happening is when I put the car in entry-exit mode where it quickly drops the suspension down to its lowest settings, that's where the vehicle turns on and auto-adjusts its headlights with. And so when I start driving, the vehicle raises 2 inches, so the point of headlights is also going up 2 inches, but the headlights don't auto-adjust after that initial startup. And so that means my headlights are adjusted about 2 inches higher than what the auto-sensing wants them to be at, and that's probably one of the reasons why I keep getting flashed so frequently by people that think my high beams are on. So these are all the things that you really have to consider if you're in the market for the Cadillac Escalade. Again, a very beautiful vehicle. I talk about the 5 things that I love about this car, and no way am I saying I hate this car in its entirety. But there are little things that General Motors gets wrong with the rollout of the Cadillac Escalade that I hope they fix in the next generation. But they are drawbacks to owning this car in terms of its comparison to the Grand Wagoneer and Lincoln Navigator. So that's all that I have for today's video. Hopefully this provides some critical insight into owning a Cadillac Escalade that you find helpful in your journey of picking your full-size luxury SUV. At the end of the day, I really love the status and the style of the Cadillac Escalade, and I think that washes out any and all of the negatives, short of maybe the drivetrain. But besides that, phenomenal SUV if you're considering it. If you have questions, let me know down below. I will do my best to answer any and all of them. And I do have to end with the fact that this car looks absolutely beautiful in the right light. The paint is fantastic, but there are some negatives to be aware of. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. If you have not already, definitely go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And as always, until the very next video, I look forward to seeing all of you in the comment section below.